Before my sister committed suicide, she called me 9 times, but I didn't answer. Everyone said I was the murderer who killed my sister, including my fiancé. The one who once accompanied me through depression, pushed me to the ground with disgust. Coldly told me, "You don't deserve happiness at all." But on the night my depression relapsed, and I was ready to trade my life for hers, they regretted it. When I came out of the hospital, there was a light drizzle outside. The doctor was a kind-looking middle-aged woman. She looked at the results on the computer, tapped her fingers on the desk, and spoke to me gently. "Cynthia, given your current condition, I suggest it would be better for you to stay in the hospital." I pressed my lips together and didn't speak. She didn't mind and continued. "It's okay if you don't want to. I'll prescribe you some antidepressants. The knot in your heart still lies with your family. If possible, you should have a good talk with your mother." I subconsciously pinched my hand. As I was leaving, she looked at me and objectively commented, "You have a great lover who has always been by your side. Love and companionship are the best medicine." But the doctor didn't know. That great lover seems to no longer love me. Valter and I have been in a relationship for a year and engaged for 3 months. 2 years ago, because I missed my sister's call, she committed suicide. My mother accused me of being a murderer, threw things at me, and screamed curses, wishing me a terrible death. The year I was diagnosed with depression, I happened to meet Valter. I had a breakdown and cried uncontrollably in front of a convenience store. People passing by looked at me strangely. Only he stopped in front of me with an umbrella, handed me a tissue, and smiled gently. "Such a pretty face, it doesn't look good when crying." I called Valter several times. He didn't answer. The mechanical female voice kept repeating, irritating my ears. I hung up and took a cab home. When I got home, the door was open. I thought Valter was back and wanted to call him, but the next second, the words got stuck in my throat. The house was a mess, everything was overturned. I was stunned and just about to call the police when I met the eyes of someone coming down from upstairs. It was my mother, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. She was holding a photo frame. She paused when she saw me, then raised her hand and threw the photo frame at me with force. The frame fell at my feet, the glass shattered into pieces. She immediately lunged at me, grabbed my hair, and her fists rained down on me. Her tone was chaotic, repeating similar phrases indistinctly. "You still want to get married? Do you deserve it? You killed your sister. You deserve to go to hell. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve to be happy. Why? Why wasn't it you who died?" I didn't dare to fight back. I could only cover my head and listen to her vent, her venomous words piercing my heart. The negative emotions almost overwhelmed me. I could only cover my ears and mutter to myself, "I can't die." I promised her. I don't know how long she hit me. Until the next-door neighbor heard the noise and came to pull us apart. The woman squatted down and asked if I was okay. Only then did I wake up from the trance, trembling as I searched my bag for my medication. But I couldn't find it. A pair of feet stopped in front of me. White pills fell one by one onto the floor, sounding like pearls. I was stunned. I looked up. Valter looked down at me, holding an empty pill bottle. He looked at me, his smile cold and malicious. "Take them." When I got engaged to Valter, my condition was already stabilizing. At its worst, I locked myself in my room, not eating or drinking all day, and dug my nails harshly into my flesh. Valter felt sorry for me. He took a leave to take me on a trip. From the warm summer of Hawaii to the extreme cold of Iceland. He proposed to me in a lavender field in Provence. Kneeling on one knee, his profile was exceptionally devout as he put the ring on my finger. "Cynthia, I will stay with you for a lifetime." I once saw Valter as my lifeline. When I was teetering on the edge of an abyss, he was the only salvation I could cling to. When the tendency to self-harm and the desire to survive tore me apart, it was he who broke the balance. He appeared in the darkest time of my life. Like a deity, he rescued me from suffering. I still took the pills from the floor. Valter let go, the empty bottle fell to the ground, making a sound and rolling to the side. I rushed to pick it up and gathered the scattered pills back into the bottle. The neighbors had long since left quietly, leaving a semblance of courtesy. Valter just looked at me coldly. "I never knew you were such a disgusting person. Cynthia Lloyd. You killed your sister. You brought this on yourself. You deserve this pain." I didn't look up, numbly continuing to pick up the pills from the floor. I could guess when Valter found out. I never told Valter about my inner demons. But after our engagement, he always hinted that I should take him to meet my parents. My relationship with my mom was actually not good, the childhood rift still existed, not to mention she already hated me deeply. Later, Valter stopped mentioning it. A week ago, he disappeared for a day, and his attitude towards me changed when he returned. 3 days ago, he brought his female assistant home. The two of them tangled on the sofa. I was a light sleeper and was awakened by the noise downstairs, thinking he was working late. Just as I was about to ask if he was hungry, I was nailed to the spot by the scene before me. Valter's assistant was very pretty, her long hair draped over Valter's chest, lowering her head to kiss him. Valter didn't dodge, letting her leave a pretty lip print on his face. Then he pulled her into his arms. The assistant let out a surprised cry, coquettishly saying, "Don't do this, Mr. Fimmel, your girlfriend is still here." But her tone was full of undisguised pride. The smell of alcohol was very strong in the living room. So strong that I wanted to use it to deceive myself. But Valter saw me. His gaze fell on my face, contemptuous and disdainful. Like a poisoned blade. "Don't mind her. She doesn't deserve it. If it weren't for that face." I didn't hear the rest. The symptoms of physical manifestation came quickly: nausea, disgust, a burning sensation rising from my stomach. I stumbled into the bathroom, clutching my throat, dry heaving. When the tears fell together, what I remembered was what Valter said the day we first met. "Don't cry. Crying isn't pretty." When I couldn't throw up anymore, Valter appeared at the door, his words devoid of any warmth. "Can't take it? But the most disgusting thing. Isn't it you?" I don't know when Valter left. By the time all the medicine was picked up and put back into the bottle, I was the only one left in the room. I sat amidst the wreckage, staring blankly at the photo frame lying not far away, and picked it up. The sharp shards cut my hand, and the bright red blood dripped onto the photo, staining my face in it. The photo was a candid shot of Valter and me on a small street in the old town. He had bought a string of candied haws, squinting and smiling as he walked towards me, while I had my back to him, looking at the lanterns. The crowded throng of people became the background. Only the young man buying candy for his beloved and his lover looking at the lanterns became the protagonists. When the girl who took the photo gave it to me, she also wished us, forever and always. At that time, Valter held my hand, our fingers interlocked. He whispered in my ear, "Get well soon, Cynthia. We need to be together forever." I also wanted to get better soon. So I actively sought treatment and took my medication. In the past, I was the only one struggling alone, cutting myself again and again in despair, using physical pain to alleviate the repression in my heart. As long as I didn't die. As long as I didn't break my promise to her. It was enough. Later, Valter appeared, and I started seeing a doctor. When I was just one step away from escaping the abyss, the hand that reached out to me pushed me back. I fell into the darkness again. Valter started coming home less often. My mom's texts bombarded me daily like clockwork. She called me a beast, a wretch. questioned why I wasn't the one who died. I didn't dare look too much. My unstable emotions were like a ticking time bomb. If it went off, I might really lose control. I hired someone to clean the house thoroughly. The broken blocks couldn't be put back together. The maid asked if I wanted to throw them away. I stared blankly at the items in her hand for a while and shook my head. After sending the maid away, I also went out to meet a friend. Aja was working in another province and came here on a business trip, so she arranged to have dinner with me. We booked a table at a Western restaurant. The sound of the piano flowed continuously, and Aja gave me a hug as soon as she saw me. She looked me over as she let go. "Why have you lost weight? I thought your Mr. Fimmel would have you well-fed and chubby." I didn't say anything. She keenly sensed my emotions. "Is he treating you badly?" I changed the subject. "It's rare for us to get together, let's not talk about him." The dishes were served. Aja chatted with me about her recent work and complained about her colleagues, making me laugh. I was smiling and about to put a piece of beef in my mouth with a fork when my smile froze. This restaurant was perfect for couples. The ambience was great. But it shouldn't have been Valter and his assistant. The man gentlemanly pulled out a chair. The beautiful woman thanked him with a smile. The roses on the table were vibrant. The diamond ring on her hand reflected the light from the crystal chandelier, hurting my eyes. Maybe I stared too long. Valter seemed to notice. The moment our eyes met, he gave me a smile that lacked any warmth. The next second, I saw him reach out to brush his assistant Hannah's hair. The gesture was intimate and ambiguous. Aja followed my gaze and saw the same scene. She almost immediately became agitated, standing up with the wine glass in her hand. "Don't go." I grabbed her hand, almost pleading, "Don't go." She looked into my tearful eyes for several seconds before finally sitting back down. I fumbled in my bag for the pill bottle, my hands trembling as I unscrewed the cap. My stomach ached in waves. It wasn't until I swallowed the pills that I could breathe again from the overwhelming suffocation. But I couldn't finish the meal. When Aja and I left with our bags, we passed by Valter and Hannah. Aja couldn't hold back and knocked over a glass with her bag, the glass shattering instantly. The red liquid spread across the table and dripped down. Hannah frowned for a moment, about to argue with Aja. Aja arrogantly said, "Sorry." Hannah was about to explode, but her expression softened when she saw me, turning into a smile. "This couple's meal is really nice. Do you like it?" Valter smiled. "I'll bring you here often." I didn't look at them. I just stared at the dark liquid on the table, drop by drop, falling to the ground, my face pale. Aja sensed something was wrong and immediately stood in front of me, blocking my view, and pulled me away quickly. I sat in the passenger seat, instinctively trying to unscrew the bottle cap. But my hand wasn't steady, and the medicine bottle fell to the floor. I didn't pick it up, my nails digging deeply into my flesh. I forced myself to stay awake on the brink of drowning in despair and breakdown. "Cynthia!" Aja called out to me louder. I snapped back to reality. "Why don't you break up with him? After all, it's just an engagement." I didn't say anything. "I know he was there for you in the past, and you got better slowly during that time. I'm grateful to him for that. But he cheated." "Cynthia." The flickering lights outside cast shadows on Aja's face, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Break up with him." The car fell into a deathly silence. After a long while, I finally heard myself speak. I said, "No." The car suddenly stopped by the roadside. The seatbelt tightened across my chest. Aja punched the steering wheel, turned to speak, but fell silent the moment she saw my face. After a long while, I finally heard her ask me, "What exactly is holding you back?" I didn't speak. She just looked at me, fiercely, as if she had to get an answer. "What exactly is holding me back?" I closed my eyes. That pool of red liquid still flowed, dripping, as if it would never stop. What held me back were similar words. It was the hand that once tried to pull me out of the abyss. What held me back was the guilt from 2 years ago. I no longer had a sister. I no longer had a home. I opened my eyes, even though they hurt terribly, not a single tear fell. With red eyes, like a wounded cub, pathetic and ridiculous. Aja. I murmured, repeating it again. I no longer have a home. When Aja left, she hugged me without saying anything else, only reminding me to see the doctor on time. I nodded. But at the moment the door closed, the emotions I had been hiding burst forth more intensely than ever before. The home that had been neatly organized by the maid was once again thrown into chaos by me. Like a madwoman, I smashed the once intact objects onto the floor. The sound of glass shattering was crisp. But it wasn't enough. Perhaps I had been suppressing for too long, the impulse was stronger than ever before. The devil screamed in my ear. It made me take a fruit knife and press it against my wrist. But then I stopped. The door suddenly opened. Valter's hand stopped midair, meeting my eyes. Countless times before, whenever I picked up a knife, he would panic. He wouldn't let me touch anything sharp. But this time, he just stood there, his expression indifferent like a bystander. The sound of the second hand on the wall was clearly audible. Do it. He looked at me, sneering, and repeated. Cut yourself. I didn't move, staring blankly at him like a puppet. He snorted, his gaze vicious. You don't dare. You're just trying to gain sympathy. Why wasn't it you who died? His tone was innocent yet heartless, as if it were just a simple question. I used all my strength to control my trembling. Cynthia Lloyd. You don't dare to die. He almost said it word by word. Indeed, I didn't dare. Under the tug of medication and promises. I couldn't die. But I couldn't live either. With a clang, the knife in my hand fell heavily to the floor, landing just by my foot. Despair wrapped around me like vines, making me finally break down and cry. In the past, when I cried, Valter would always hold me in his arms, his cold demeanor softening, whispering gently to comfort me. Just like that person. Always using a handkerchief with the scent of gardenias to gently wipe away my tears, then holding me in her arms, softly comforting me. Don't cry, Cynthia. You won't be pretty if you cry. Such an old-fashioned saying. But I listened to it for over a decade and never got tired of it. In this world, no one would comfort me like that again. I sank deeper and deeper into the mire. Sometimes I forgot to take my medication. Sometimes I would shove a handful into my mouth all at once. I started cutting my arms again with a knife. New wounds on top of the old faded scars from a year ago. But they weren't fatal. Then the pill bottle was empty. I don't know how I made it through. In a daze, I made it to my sister's death anniversary. The weather cleared up that day. I got up early, tidied myself up, and went to the florist to buy a bouquet. But when I got there, someone had already arrived before me. Mom was standing there, the grave was filled with various offerings. I walked over expressionlessly and put down the flowers. Just as I was about to turn and leave, something heavy slammed into my head. I lost my balance and almost fell to the ground. The previously wrapped flowers scattered, petals falling messily to the ground. Her voice was filled with deep-seated hatred as she screamed hysterically at me. What are you doing here? Aren't you the murderer? How dare you come to see her? But as she cursed, she started crying. The one who should have died was you. I didn't look back. My head was dizzy, as if I were standing on the edge of a cliff. I clenched my fist, forcing myself to calm down and leave. When I got into the car, I saw a text from the doctor. She asked why I hadn't come. I stared at her profile picture, struggling to type. Sorry, something came up. Her reply was quick. I'll reschedule for you, when can you come? Forget it. The cursor blinked in the input box. In the end, I didn't send it. I'll make an appointment with you next time. Valter Fimmel came home early for the first time in a while. It wasn't Hannah who brought him home, but another male subordinate. When he came back, I was squinting into an empty pill bottle. It had been empty for a long time. The male subordinate helped Valter to the sofa and politely said goodbye to me. Valter was rarely this drunk, the heavy smell of alcohol filled the room, his face was flushed, and he looked dazed. There were only the two of us in the room. The light in the living room was bright, falling on Valter's face, his eyes half closed, but his face was turned towards me. I put down the pill bottle and looked at his face. The next second, he struggled to get up from the sofa, raising his eyes to look at me. He didn't come over, just squinted slightly, staring at me with a silly smile, his eyes half red. He called me, Stella. I haven't thought of you for a long time. I met someone. She looks so much like you. I'm going to marry her. But, her mother said she was the one who killed you. I stared at him blankly, feeling like I was plunged into an icy abyss. He said something else, but I didn't hear a word. The Stella in his words. I knew her. 2 years ago, she jumped from a high building. My deceased, older sister. Stella Lloyd. No wonder. No wonder Valter was inexplicably delighted when he first saw me. No wonder he was so good to me when we first met. No wonder he said, if it weren't for this face. So, it was my face that resembled my sister's. What I thought was my salvation was just another abyss. I stumbled into the study. With trembling hands, I searched through the books piled in the corner. One by one, they fell to the ground. The room was in chaos. I finally found what I was looking for. A high school graduation photo. A young Valter. And my sister in a beautiful uniform skirt at 18, looking like a flower. My muddled mind finally found a bit of clarity. But the next moment, Valter staggered in, trying to snatch the photo from my hand. He was still drunk, but a bit more sober. Why? Why wasn't it you who died? The protective wall I had built up finally collapsed completely. A bomb went off in my head, making me lose the last bit of rationality. I pushed him with all my strength. Then I'll give her back. A life for a life. Is that enough? Valter hit the wall, as if he still wanted to laugh. But I didn't look at him, I rushed into the kitchen and grabbed a fruit knife. He finally seemed to panic, stumbling as he tried to catch me. But he was drunk, he couldn't catch up with me. He could only watch as I disappeared from the house. He called out the nickname he used to call me. Cynthia! Cynthia, come back! But I didn't look back. The car sped down the road. But the face in that photo kept haunting my mind. I almost forgot. She used to be so vibrant, so beautiful. But in the end, all I could remember was her empty eyes and her blood-soaked body that day. So much blood. I wanted to wipe it away, but I couldn't. How could someone bleed so much? So much that my white shirt was stained crimson. I couldn't wipe it all away. Mom rushed over and hit me. She grabbed my hair, yanking at my scalp. Then her fists kept raining down on me. Why didn't you answer her calls? She called you 9 times. 9 times. And you didn't pick up once. She didn't have to die. She could have lived. It's all your fault. Why didn't you answer the phone? Her sobs and screams pounded at my chest like stones, her words stabbing at my heart like a knife. It hurt so much. It's all my fault. I killed my sister with my own hands. Under the influence of the medication, I can't remember much. Especially since I deliberately avoid those memories. But today, those memories I tried so hard to forget came flooding back. A torrent of emotions clogged my chest, like a seed stuck in my throat, unable to go up or down. Memories move faster than anything else in this world. They made me break down halfway. I forgot too many things. That's why it feels so heavy, suffocating me. I forgot that when I was 6, playing outside and coming back a bit late, Mom locked me in a dark room and wouldn't let me out. I was so scared I didn't dare close my eyes. It was my sister who held me, singing beautiful songs to me over and over. I forgot that when I was 9, Mom beat me, and I hid in a corner crying. It was my sister who wiped away my tears, teasing me, "Cynthia, you don't look pretty when you cry." I forced a smile. Tears fell into my mouth. Salty. She also smiled, "Cynthia, you look the prettiest when you smile." I forgot that when I was 12, I ran away from home, the heavy snow blocking the roads, and I fainted in the wind and snow. It was my sister who braved the cold, searching for me without a break. She found me, unconscious and frozen, in the snow. When I woke up, she was by my bedside, her eyes red. I hugged her and promised never to run away again. I forgot that when I was 15, my grades dropped a bit, and the teacher called my parents. My mom slapped me in front of the school gate. She called me an animal. That year, I thought about dying for the first time. I took a fruit knife and cut my wrist. My sister found me. She called 911, her hands trembling as she wrapped my wrist with gauze. She said, "Cynthia, what would I do if you left? Don't you want your sister anymore?" I regretted it then. I couldn't leave my sister alone. I promised her I would never attempt suicide again. I forgot that when I was 17, filling out my college applications, Mom pulled the same trick, changing my out-of-state application to a local second-tier university. She did the same when my sister applied for college. But this time, my sister firmly opposed it. She stood up to Mom with me. She patted my head and told me firmly, "Cynthia, you must go to a better university." But such a good sister. She left her Cynthia behind. If I hadn't been busy that day. If I hadn't put my phone on silent that day. If I had answered her call that day. She could have lived. Outside the car window, the night stretched endlessly into the distance. I covered my mouth, sobbing. Pain consumed my body, and the delayed grief gradually bent my spine. In the boundless darkness, my soul was repeatedly crushed. The living clung desperately to the promises made by the deceased. But sister, life is too bitter. Your little Cynthia really can't hold on anymore. I'm coming to find you, okay? The car stopped at the entrance of the cemetery. Holding a knife, I stepped onto the stone path leading up the hill without looking back. The photo on the tombstone was black and white. I had always come in a hurry before, not daring to look at her for long. But this time was different. The fruit knife in my hand reflected the cold moonlight from the sky. I hardly hesitated. The skin on my wrist was delicate, and as soon as it was cut, blood rushed out eagerly. It trickled down my arm, slowly dripping. I watched the bright red liquid fall calmly. Calmly waiting for death. There was a faint sound behind me. I turned around instinctively. Unexpectedly, I locked eyes with a man holding a bouquet. His gaze fell on my face, his expression momentarily stunned, then shifted to my wrist, and his face immediately changed. Almost instantly, he dropped the flowers, pulled out a handkerchief, and pressed it against my wound. Blood seeped through the white handkerchief. He grabbed my other hand and started walking. I was pulled along by him. But my gaze remained fixed on his other hand. The hand that had just pressed the handkerchief to my wound was wearing a ring. I had seen the other ring in this pair before. It used to hang on a necklace around my sister's neck. This man was my sister's former lover. He drove very fast, as if his life depended on it, quickly reaching the hospital. The doctor treated my wound. The hospital was still busy at night, people coming and going. I sat on a hospital chair, my hands on my lap, obediently waiting for Oshin to finish paying the fees and return. The phone on the chair kept ringing. The contact's name displayed as Valter continuously, call after call, with no break in between, as if it never tired. "Aren't you going to answer?" Oshin asked me. I shook my head. Just stared at the ring on his hand. His gaze fell on my arm, as if stung, then retracted. Then he raised his hand, but it hovered in the air, stiff. It seemed like he wanted to pat my head to comfort me, but felt it was inappropriate. After a long while, he sighed. "Cynthia Lloyd. Your sister left something with me. I hope you can take a look." I agreed. When Oshin brought down the metal box from upstairs, my mom called me. But I didn't answer. He handed the box to me and even thoughtfully opened it a little. This was Stella's treasure. The man smiled softly as he remembered his sister. I used to ask her to show me what was inside, but she wouldn't let me. She said it contained her most precious belongings. I hadn't dared to enter her room until recently, and I saw she had left this box there. I looked inside. He glanced at me, his eyes slightly red. "But I think you're the one who should see it." Under the dim light of the car roof, I slowly opened the box. There were many things inside, and they were quite miscellaneous. Some of them were very old. A drawing I made for her when I was 6. It depicted her in a glamorous dress, wearing a princess-like crown. A beaded hairpin I bought from a small store when I was 8. It was gaudy and cheap. I told her one for each of us and pinned it on her silky hair. When I was 10, friendship bracelets were popular at school, and I made one for her with brightly colored threads costing just a few cents, adding small plastic stars and painted bells. They would jingle when shaken. When I was 12, our school went on a field trip to a temple, and I got tricked by a vendor into buying a blessed agate stone. It was strung with a red thread and said to bring safety. I brought it back to her like a precious gift. 13, 14, 15 years old. All the way until I became an adult. Scattered, worthless trinkets. Yet she treated them as treasures, carefully preserving them. What treasures? I used my sleeve to wipe my eyes. These were clearly things that even if given for free, others wouldn't want them. Oshin dropped me off at the hotel and left his number with me. There was also a thick diary in my sister's box. He hesitated for a moment but said, "Call me when you're about to leave." I nodded. My phone was still ringing. I casually tossed it aside and started reading the diary. It was very thick. So thick that it took me 4 days at the hotel to finish reading it. Yet it was very thin. So thin that it encapsulated my sister's brief life. My sister and I grew up in a single-parent household. Our mom was excessively controlling. Our childhood was never a fond memory. It was filled with endless scolding, punishment, and verbal abuse. In those painful and inescapable times, my sister and I were each other's only solace. So she wrote a lot about her little sister Cynthia. Even when I went to college. She missed me in her diary. Missed her little Cynthia, wondering if I was happy, if I was keeping warm, eating well, and taking care of myself. Later, she met Oshin. They were together. But Mom didn't approve. She forced them to break up and arranged for my sister to meet a man she liked. My sister didn't want to, so she pretended to comply. The diary stopped 7 days before my sister jumped off the building. Mom found out that my sister was living with Oshin. She came to make a scene. In front of everyone, she threw a tantrum, calling my sister a slut for secretly living with a man. She said my sister was unfilial. She forced my sister to break up with Oshin and took her back home. The last 2 lines on that page were blurred by tears. My sister wrote, "I can't hold on anymore. Sorry. I actually haven't thought about her for a long time. Because I don't dare to. The chain reactions brought by memories are consequences I cannot bear. Only on the day a year ago when I had a persistent high fever. In a daze, it felt like I had returned to the time when she was still there. Resting my head on her lap, listening to her sing. But after waking up, I had to force myself to forget. But actually, I miss her so much. I dreamed for 4 days. Dreamed of our childhood together. On the 4th day, I woke up with tear stains all over my face. I leaned against the headboard, looking at the glaring sunlight outside the window. I only remember her in the dream, squinting and smiling, touching my head and saying, "Be happy. Little Cynthia, your smile is the best." I buried myself back into the pillow. Luckily, yearning is silent. There were many missed calls on my phone. I only answered Aja's call. I told her I was safe. She said Valter was going crazy looking for me. If I didn't show up soon, he would call the police. I responded, saying I understood. After hanging up, I called Oshin and told him I wanted to go home. He came quickly. "Are you okay?" I nodded. The scenery outside the window kept passing by, and a soothing instrumental music was playing in the car. Neither of us spoke. As we were about to arrive, Oshin broke the silence. "Did she call you that day, and you missed it?" "Yes." The car stopped downstairs. He met my eyes through the rearview mirror. "That day, Stella also called me. I couldn't keep her either. Cynthia Lloyd." He called my name, his gaze solemn. "She called you just to say goodbye. So don't blame yourself. Your sister, more than anyone else, she wanted you to be happy." Yes. I should have known that long ago. I covered my face. She loved me so much. How could she blame me? It's me who can't move on. It's me who refuses to forgive myself. When I opened the door, Valter was sitting on the sofa. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up, the desolate expression vanished, as if he had found a lost treasure. "Cynthia. Thank goodness." He rushed towards me like a madman, hugging me tightly, as if to embed me into his embrace. "Thank goodness. You're still alive. I was wrong." He muttered apologies, his back hunched, his posture lowered, his head buried in my neck. I struggled to push him away, but he held me tighter. I opened my mouth to scold him, but suddenly froze. Warm liquid fell into my collar, sliding down my neck. "Cynthia." He trembled, his voice growing lower. I thought I really lost you." Before I could speak, I was pulled away by someone who had just arrived, and Oshin punched Valter in the chest. He shielded me behind him. He had a faint floral scent similar to my sister's, calming and reassuring. Valter, with reddened eyes, glared at Oshin, as if about to attack him any second. "Oshin." I called him, "You should go downstairs first." Valter's expression stiffened for a moment but then seemed to subtly relax. Oshin was silent for a moment before speaking. If Stella saw her little Cynthia living like this, she would regret leaving like that. My eyes reddened almost instantly. Only the 2 of us were left in the room. Silence spread around. I stared at Valter, expressionless, and spoke. "Let's call off the engagement." Valter refused. But I didn't need his answer. The annulment of the engagement didn't require the other party's consent. I took the diary and returned to the home I hadn't been to in 2 years. The moment I opened the door, my mom seemed to have aged several years. She stared at me, her eyes half red. But in just an instant, her guilt and sadness were retracted, replaced by the usual hatred. "You're not dead, huh? Didn't they say you committed suicide?" I raised my bandaged hand and replied calmly, "Almost." Before she could erupt, I took the diary out of my bag. "She didn't take it. It's sister's diary." I put it down and looked at her deeply before leaving. "Mom. My sister and I, we are both living people." My sister was naturally shy. Gentle, but also the easiest to get hurt. Like a container with no outlet. All the negative emotions couldn't be vented and only kept increasing with Mom's actions. When the pressure became unbearable, it was irreparable. I asked Aja to accompany me to Valter's house to pack my things. When she arrived, she brought a specially made iron rod, saying she wouldn't feel better unless she hit him a few times. Valter was downstairs, I was upstairs packing, and she stood at the staircase, glaring at Valter fiercely with the rod in hand. I didn't have much stuff. Mom had smashed and broken most of it before, so there was even less now. 2 suitcases were packed full. Aja didn't get her wish. I didn't want her to bear any civil responsibility, so she helped me drag 1 suitcase downstairs. Valter sat on the sofa, looking at me dejectedly, his eyes red. I walked over and picked up the photo frame on the coffee table. Valter and I were smiling in the photo. I then took a pair of scissors out of the drawer and was about to cut the photo when Valter moved. His hand blocked the scissors from the photo. I used force. The scissors pierced his flesh, the skin broke, and blood oozed out. Valter looked at me, the light in his eyes shattered. "Is it necessary?" I asked him, "Weren't you with me because of this face?" Now pretending to be affectionate just makes people feel disgusted. He opened his mouth to retort, but his expression changed, and in the end, he just murmured, "It's not like that." I ignored him, grabbed the photo, and cut it into pieces. The paper fragments fluttered down, falling at our feet. What broke was more than just the photo. Valter bent down to pick up the fragments, just like that day when I knelt on the ground, numbly picking up the pills. I looked at his miserable appearance. I found it inexplicably funny. I left without looking back. The moment I stepped out of the door, I was alone again. Once again, I had no home. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Countless times I had fallen into the abyss. In the end, it was my sister who saved me. She wished her little Cynthia to be happier than anyone else. So I will live well. Live happier than anyone else. I received a message from Mom 2 weeks later. I took the agate stone and went to Denmark. It was only when I returned that I found out Mom had gone mad. I went to the mental hospital to see her. Her hair was a mess from pulling it herself, and she was crying and laughing. She told everyone she had 2 daughters. Laughing, then suddenly breaking down into tears. Saying she had harmed both of her daughters. Saying she had killed her own daughter. Pulling her hair, hitting herself desperately. The nurse was about to give her a sedative injection. I just watched quietly for a while, then left. I started going to the hospital frequently again, taking medication and receiving psychological counseling. I always went alone. The doctor looked at the computer and smiled, saying that my complexion had improved a lot recently and that I was in good spirits. I smiled back. Cynthia Lloyd. People have to look forward in life. We must learn to let go. I stood in front of the hospital entrance, lost in thought for a long time. It happened to be the time when the nearby school was letting out, and the street became lively. The shouts of vendors, the laughter of children, and the voices of adults calling names filled the air. My phone beeped, and an unfamiliar number sent a photo. It was the photo I had cut up that day, now pieced back together. I almost instinctively deleted it and then blocked the number. 2 little girls walked past me, hand in hand, chatting and laughing, each holding a skewer of candied fruit. One said, "Today's homework is so much. Sister, can you help me?" The other replied, "Sure, finish quickly and we can watch TV together." I watched them walk further and further away until they disappeared from sight. I drove to my sister's grave. It was late autumn. Fallen leaves were piled up in front of the grave. I stood there and talked to her about my recent life. I told her where I had been and whom I had met. I said that my appetite had improved a lot recently, and I was eating much more than before. I told her I was looking ahead now, and the doctor said I might be getting better soon. But in the end, I smiled and then cried. I couldn't let go. Sister. The year I graduated and started working. After finishing the project at hand, I would receive a substantial bonus. I had planned for so long. Once it was done, along with the scholarship I saved from college and the wages from my part-time jobs, I could take my sister to her favorite Nordic town for a trip. That day was the last day of the project. I was exhausted, my head spinning. But I was full of joy. Thinking. Once it was over, I could take my sister out to play. She would be happy, right? It was also that day. My sister jumped from a high building. Since then, I no longer had a home. Just a little more. Just a little more, and we could have been happy. Why didn't you wait a little longer for your little Cynthia? Sister. The wind howled. There was no response. Bonus chapter, from Valter's perspective. Valter finished piecing the photo together. He assembled it over and over again, only to scatter it repeatedly. As if he never tired. In the photo, Cynthia had a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. Since he met her, she rarely smiled. There was always a lingering sadness between her brows. At that time, he was determined to help her smooth it out. Because when she smiled, she was truly beautiful. A different kind of beauty from Stella. When he actually learned the truth, he felt he should hate Cynthia. But there was a moment of confusion, and it was this moment of confusion that made him feel inexplicably ashamed. As if he had betrayed Stella. So he kept convincing himself he should hate Cynthia. In the end, he believed it. So he treated Cynthia very poorly. He even repeatedly told her to die. Cynthia never got angry. She didn't even argue back. She just accepted it all, as if she were locked in a world all her own. But that day, he was drunk, questioning why it wasn't her who had died. He saw with his own eyes the light in her eyes extinguish in an instant. Despair, like a beast breaking free from its cage, rampaged in her eyes. She finally had a reaction. She said, "Then I'll repay her." She said, "A life for a life." Is that enough? Valter wanted to chase after her. But he was too slow. He could only watch helplessly as she disappeared. He was terrified. The fear of losing her was far stronger than the hatred he had constantly emphasized. He desperately called her, desperately thought of where she might go, dragging his unsteady body as he searched for her. But found nothing. Valter woke up from the nightmare of that day, frantically reaching for the spot beside him. But the moonlight was like silver, illuminating the empty side of his bed. Cynthia used to sleep restlessly. Many times, waking up in the middle of the night, he would see the tear stains on her face. This also meant that every time he worked late, she would be woken up. Sleepily, she would hug him, asking if he was hungry, if he wanted her to make him a snack. At that time, the lights were warm and cozy. He looked at her with only one thought: to marry her. It was her, not Stella. But now, she had nothing to do with him anymore. On the day he got drunk, he stood at the hotel entrance calling Cynthia. But no matter how many times he called, it was only a busy tone. His friends urged him to go home. He stubbornly shook his head. You make a call. Call who? His friends were puzzled. Call Cynthia. He took his phone and dialed the number he knew by heart. Tell her, I'm drunk, ask if she can come pick me up. His friend took the phone, talked to the person on the other end for a few moments. When he hung up, his expression changed, looking troubled. Valter, you should go home. What did Cynthia say? She's not coming. You should go home. How could she not come? Clearly, she used to always come to pick him up and take him home. Valter thought his friend was lying, stubbornly refusing to leave. He stood straight under the streetlight. Cynthia will come. I'll wait for her here. His friends couldn't persuade him and eventually left, called away by their own spouses. Valter stood in the cold wind all night. Only at dawn did his mind finally clear a little. Cynthia was no longer his Cynthia. It was him. He had personally severed their bond. Valter couldn't let her go. He painstakingly pieced together the broken photos, glued them back, and placed them in their original spot. He hid in the shadows, secretly observing her life. Watching as she gradually became more cheerful. Watching as she found a job she loved, sharing snacks from her colleagues every day. Watching as she smiled more and more, with every photo showing a bright and lively smile. Watching as she held another man's hand. That day, he nearly drank himself to death at the bar. He was on in 4 drip for a whole day. When he woke up, he stared at the stark white walls of the hospital. Suddenly, he realized the only one who couldn't move on was him. Valter started drinking heavily. He became a regular at the hospital. The doctors had grown familiar with him, often sighing and advising him to take better care of his health. But Valter kept drinking. Until one day, the doctor placed the diagnosis in front of him. Stomach cancer. Valter took the diagnosis with little expression. As he walked out of the building, the sunlight outside made him a bit unsteady. In that blinding moment, he heard the voice he had longed to hear day and night. Kevin, why didn't you tell me you were in a car accident? He turned around. He saw his Cynthia standing there, a bit angry, talking to a man in a hospital gown. He had never seen such a lively Cynthia. I was wrong, I just didn't want you to worry. The man smiled at her apologetically, pulling her into his arms. Don't worry, I'm almost better. When I get back, can you make some pork rib soup for me? Is that okay, my Cynthia? Cynthia wriggled out of his embrace. Why did you suddenly call me that? Because I had a dream. Someone asked me to take good care of her little Cynthia. So, can you make some pork rib soup for your future husband to try? Cynthia burst into laughter. She flicked his forehead. Doesn't the restaurant sell it? But I only want to drink the one you make. They said something more after that. Valter didn't hear it. He watched their figures disappear around the corner. He stood in the crowd, feeling an indescribable pain. Actually, Cynthia's cooking wasn't that great. But it was unforgettable. Pork rib soup. She had made it for him too. Only at that time, he didn't realize. That dish, so ordinary, became in his short life a delicacy he could never have again. No wonder. No wonder people always say. Back then, it just seemed ordinary. Extra story, Stella's diary excerpts. August 29, 2007. I accidentally broke a cup, and Mom got really angry, asking if I was blind. She punished me by not allowing me to eat for a day. I'm so hungry. Mom went out in the evening, and Cynthia secretly brought me 2 packs of cookies. I devoured them and almost choked. Cynthia giggled beside me. August 30th, 2007. Mom found out about the cookies. When I came back from tutoring, Mom was hitting Cynthia with a clothes hanger, scolding her for being a pig. She was furious that Cynthia ate snacks without her permission. When Cynthia heard the noise, she looked up with tears on her face. But she forced a smile at me where Mom couldn't see. When I held her and cried, she said, "Sis, don't tell Mom the truth, okay? Otherwise, this beating would be for nothing." June 11th, 2008. I only scored 80 in math. I didn't dare show Mom the test paper, but she was already waiting for me at home. She said the teacher called her. She said she was very disappointed. She walked towards me with a hanger, saying I wouldn't learn without a beating. Mom's beatings hurt a lot. But the second hit didn't land on me, because Cynthia rushed over and hugged me. She cried, begging Mom not to hit me. Mom ignored her and hit us both. Even though Cynthia shielded me, taking all the pain herself, I couldn't stop my tears from falling. I said, "Mom, I'm wrong, I know I'm wrong, I'll study hard, I'll get 100 next time. Please stop hitting us. I'm begging you, Mom." But she didn't listen. June 12th, 2008. Cynthia couldn't sit down without pain and stood all day. Watching her made me want to cry. She said it was okay. "Sis, don't cry." She even smiled and said, "Anyway, I've been hit by Mom so many times, my skin is thick, it doesn't matter this time." April 21st, 2009. Walking home with Cynthia, she couldn't take her eyes off a street vendor. But we only had enough money for 1 pancake. She looked for a while, then pulled my hand to leave. I used the money to buy her one. She split it in half for me, but I said I didn't want any. She ate happily and said I was the best sister in the world. I said, "And Cynthia, you're the best little sister in the world." September 5th, 2011. Aunt gave me a dress for my birthday. It was white and very pretty. I wore it when I went out with friends, and Mom saw it when I came back. She screamed at me to take it off, then cut it into pieces with scissors. "Why are you dressing up instead of focusing on your studies? Who are you trying to seduce? At your age, you should focus on studying, not hanging out with bad influences." I watched as she threw the now ragged dress into the trash. I actually wanted to cry. "Mom, it was just an ordinary white dress." October 6th, 2011. Cynthia shyly gave me something, a white dress she had sewn. The red stitching was crooked like worms. She said she learned from the grandma downstairs. It was her first time, so it turned out a bit ugly. I grabbed her hand that she tried to hide. There were 3 band-aids on it. I hugged her and cried. I said I wouldn't wear dresses anymore. She hugged me too. Her eyes were dark like grapes. She said, "Sis, you're like a fairy, you look beautiful even without a dress." She said, "A fairy without a dress is still a fairy. We look so much alike." But she always thought I was much prettier. Just like, in my eyes, she's the most beautiful person in the world. September 23rd, 2013. Cynthia always argues with Mom. Every time, she gets hit. But she never remembers the pain. Next time, she argues with Mom again. She cozies up on my lap and asks me to sing for her. I stroke her head and tell her to argue less with Mom, to get hurt less. She stares at the wall, lost in thought. After a long while, she responds. She says, "Sister, I can't listen to her for my whole life." October 24th, 2015. Almost senior year, the pressure is too much, my grades dropped by 100 ranks. The teacher called me to the office for a talk. I promised to work harder next time and asked her not to tell my mom when I left. She said, "We'll see." October 28, 2015. When I got home, Mom threw an apple at me. I didn't dodge, it hit me and stained my clothes. She rushed over and slapped me hard. "Are you having an early romance at school? Your grades dropped by over 100 ranks and you want to hide it from me? Stella Lloyd. Do you even see me as your mother? I work so hard to send you to school, is it for you to fall in love with someone?" I didn't have an early romance. I wanted to say. But I couldn't. She wouldn't listen. She wouldn't believe. I've gotten used to staying silent. So much so that I can't speak up anymore. March 9, 2016. My mindset isn't good. The closer the exams, the more anxious I get. The more uneasy I am, the less I can perform at my best. Cynthia went out with friends on the weekend and came back. She mysteriously took my hand and said she went to a temple today. She said she asked for a blessing in front of Buddha. To bless me so I can get into the university I want. She said that temple is very effective. Her eyes sparkled when she smiled. I stroked her hair and smiled too. I didn't believe in gods and spirits. But she sounded so sincere. I believed her. June 8, 2016. Finished the last exam and finally felt relieved. Cynthia was at the school gate waiting for me. There were so many people. When I came out, I saw her small figure being pushed around in the crowd. But her eyes were fixed on the school gate, looking for me. I called her name. Her eyes lit up immediately, and she ran towards me, jumping into my arms. She smiled with her eyes curved and asked if the temple was effective. We hugged in the crowded throng. I said it was. I felt I performed beyond my usual. I was sure I could get into the school I wanted. Cynthia played a big part in it. June 25, 2016. I did get into the school I wanted. But Mom changed my choice. My life was ruined. August 17, 2017. It's Cynthia's birthday. The cake I bought was small. Mom said today was her suffering day and sat on the sofa, rambling about her hardships. Cynthia and I didn't speak. She suddenly got angry, calling us both ungrateful. Under the dim light, the scar on Cynthia's wrist was still there. It stung my eyes. At night, Cynthia and I chatted. She snuck into my bed, making it crowded. Just like when we were 7 or 8. We huddled together, whispering secrets. She asked me to guess her wish. I said I didn't know, but wishes don't come true if spoken aloud. She laughed and said her wish didn't rely on gods. She said she wanted to earn a lot of money in the future. And she hugged me and said she hoped her sister could be a little happier. June 25, 2018. Mom wanted to change Cynthia's choice. Just like she did to me. She didn't want us to go too far, preferably staying in her grasp for life. So she clipped my wings. But Cynthia couldn't be held back. She was destined to be a free bird. To fly higher, further. Best of all, never to return. August 24, 2018. I sent Cynthia to the airport. Mom still wouldn't talk to her, so only I came to see her off. She dragged her suitcase, unable to hide her excitement. It was time to go. I patted her head. If you need money, just tell me. Don't worry about money. I was afraid she would hold back because of money. More afraid she would skimp on herself to save money. I couldn't give her the best. I could only hope that when she faced difficulties, thinking of me would give her more confidence. She hugged me and said okay. I watched her figure disappear into the crowd. Cynthia. You must live happier than anyone.